today we're going to be talking about Siili Solution and Supercharge, finding each other and going from a subcontracting kind of way of doing to finding actually respected new colleagues in between the Siili community. But to start off, I would like to present our opening remarks from Mr. Urkuti György, the ambassador of Hungary in Finland. Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you so much, Rasmus. It's really a great pleasure to be here, and first and foremost I would like to express my gratitude to you and to the whole Finnish Software and E-Business Association for organizing this important event. It all started, when I first heard about that Siili has been supercharged, in the sense of the word that they have acquired a stake in this important Hungarian company. But the story actually goes a way much longer back to the past, because if I'm not mistaken, we have seen at least 3 decades of very successful Finnish-Hungarian cooperation in the ICT sector. That started, of course, with Nokia, that still runs a huge technology center in downtown Budapest, employing more than 2,000 employees in Hungary. This is one of the most important ICT companies in Hungary ever since. But this is not the only one. I think the Finnish-Hungarian cooperation in this very specific area has borne so much fruit in recent years. We have just started to learn even about the more latest and more fascinating or even more fascinating companies that have also either established Hungarian subsidiaries or have some kind of other presence in Hungary. And if you let me, Rasmus, I would like to mention the name of some other companies, including ILET, that is a very important SAP partner, actually, in my understanding. That used to be the SAP Partner of the Year in Finland some years ago. And if I'm not mistaken, the owner and the CEO of that company is also a member of the board of the Finnish Software and E-Business Association, Ms. Janina Luoto. So she has also set up a Hungarian subsidiary recently. And we also have Tuxera, which has been established in Finland by a Hungarian very talented young man, Mr. Szabolcs Szakacsics, and he's ever since the CTO of this company, in my understanding. Or we have also Iconic Chain, that has been established by Mr. András Varga, András Vajda, also in Finland, and they also have a Hungarian subsidy nowadays. So I think there are plenty of excellent examples, and I was just wondering what's the reason for that. And there are many reasons, of course. You will hear about, from the story of Siili and Supercharge, I'm quite sure, that how a similar way of thinking we Finns and Hungarians have, how similar sense of humor, how similar problem-solving approaches we apply. And there are so many things that unite us that is quite obvious, actually, that there is an ever more dense and increasing cooperation also in the ICT sector. But what is perhaps not so widely known yet, that in Finland there is a huge tradition of the Hungarian way of teaching mathematics. And it has a lot to do with these ICT success stories, I'm quite sure. Some decades ago, even a Finnish registered association has been established among the Finnish teachers about how to teach the Hungarian way, mathematics, how to teach the Hungarian way mathematics in not only secondary school but in primary school as well. This is the Varga Neményi Ügdisztus. And actually that has a lot to do with that similar approaches. I think that Hungarian mathematics education is renowned worldwide, and I think there is yet another example in the form of this cooperation of Siili and Supercharge, that these kind of fruits can be taken from this kind of very similar way of thinking and similar way of teaching mathematics as well. So I'm very thankful for this opportunity, and I have nothing else to say but wish you good luck with this 1 hour program today, and thank you for organizing this event in a very professional way and in a very fascinating way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for those kind words and very interesting examples of companies that you brought up that are doing business today in Hungary and have long traditions in doing so. Today's topics, as Mr. Ambassador said, and we went through, we're talking about making the deal, supercharging Siili. I really love that way of expressing it. And after that, we will have Antti discussing with András from Supercharge about the experiences of their committed married life together so far. And to end it up as a topping on the cake, we'll have an overview from the Hungarian ICT industry. Tünde will have a short presentation of how the Hungarian ICT industry or IT industry looks today. But now, without further ado, I'd like to present to you Mr. Antti Kiukas. Welcome, Antti, to our studio.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having us.
Shortly, would you like to present yourself and tell with a few words what you do when you're not in the studio with us?
Yeah, whenever I'm not in the studio with Rasmus, I run the marketing and the communications of Siili Solutions. I've been with the company for 3 years. I have my previous experience in the interesting field of management consulting, and now switching from that industry to ICT, it's been a pure pleasure. And I guess that's one of the things we're going to talk today.
That is very true. Very great to have you here. And something that we're going to go through today is about the deal rationale, finding a target company for your needs. Did you have previous cooperation with companies in Hungary, and something about, easiest and hardest things to manage in making this deal.
Yeah.
And as promised, Siili Solution is a stock noted company. We will not talk about deal structure or money this time because we're restricted by the stock authorities here.
Sure. Of course, we released some information related to the sums, but I don't think that's the important or interesting part of the story. So let's focus on something else.
Yeah. So what we will start off with is what I call the deal rationale. So I would like to hear from you.
Yeah.
What was the need of Siili when you started looking at possible prospects? And when you started off, were you kind of in the idea of let's go and buy a company with all these talents, or were you thinking about a more traditional subcontracting relationship? Mm-hmm. And we'll end up this part by asking, why buy a company? Why not just make be in a cooperation with them? But let's start with Siili's need.
Okay, all in all, I must say that I also like this Siili Supercharged idea, and as you can see, I'm already supercharged.
You're supercharged,
and many of us are. And if moving forward for the Siili rationale, so to speak, is of course first and foremost we are a growth company.
Yeah.
So growth means sometimes growing organically and sometimes growing inorganically, and of course now we are talking the latter.
Yeah.
But usually people, when they start to talk about the rationale behind the deals, they start with the strategy. But because I'm from marketing, I'm going to start with brand.
All right.
That's a luxury you get once working in marketing. Our brand promise for a while has been, we help you find what's essential, then we build it, make it real. So we are the doers, we are the make it real company, so to speak. Not only just like visioning things, not only concepting things, but actually bringing them into production and actually maintaining the digital products, so to speak. And to be world class in this promise, to be a combination of a digital agency, actually helping the customers to find between the myriad of opportunities what's essential, and being the technology powerhouse to actually build it. We wanted to make the finding the essential part stronger. That's the rationale number one. So just like strengthening the brand promise, being even more real towards it.
All right.
That's the first thing. Then second thing I'd say that it comes now we arrived at the strategy. And of course now there are, for some reason, there are trees even if we are an ICT company. and people have been wondering that, well, why are you using the metaphor of forest? We are calling this...
I'm looking at them.
Yeah.
You have pines and you've got spruce and you've got one birch.
That's true. We are using the metaphor, of course, for the reasons, of course, the company name deriving from a hedgehog. We are, in a sense, really close to the nature. And once we ask our employees what is important for you, they're always coming to these issues of sustainability, these responsibility issues as well. So the forest is close to the company. And we wanted to actually describe the strategy also in terms of trees. So we are building or actually growing the digital forest. And the forest needs to have bigger trees and smaller trees. And these bigger trees represent the core companies between the company structure. We have core Finland, we have operations in Poland, forming the core Poland, and then of course through Supercharge now we have core Hungary. And the idea is that we want these companies to actually drive entrepreneurship, so actually build smaller companies or actually acquire smaller companies in their close proximity, so all these companies can actually take advantage of each other and actually have benefits of working as a one forest. So it's a platform or an ecosystem, so to speak. And when it comes to the strategy, of course, we got a new core. We became more international, and also we have now a new opportunity to actually grow the forest also in the Eastern European sector that way.
All right, so Supercharge works as a node for you.
Sure, sure.
How big is the node of Supercharge today?
The node of, you mean in terms of people?
Well, for instance, people.
I would say that they're in excess of 100 already at the moment. So it's rather big of a tree already.
Yeah.
And getting bigger as we speak. Whoa, almost lost the control. Good. So I guess that's the strategic justification or the rationale for the deal. Moving forward, I guess this is important again. Now there is a lot of people there.
Yep.
And when we are talking about like modern IT development and competitive edges related to the modern IT development, I think this is one of the best pictures we've been able to draw so far. When you started to draw the picture of our offering, my basic idea was actually my 85-year-old father.
Wow.
If I would be able to explain Siili to my father through this picture, so he finally would understand what we do in IT.
Yeah.
Something related to the internet.
Yeah.
But if it would explain the thing, then it would probably work with other partners and parties as well. And looking at the picture, of course, there we have the most important part of the picture, which is the end user. They're in the dead center of the picture here.
Yep.
And their digital experience. And to create that experience, of course, it takes innovation. It takes understanding of strategy, and of course it takes a lots of design, different kind of design, and this is what we call like the foreground of the whole play. After that, once we know who we are building, to what we are building, why we are building it, what's the novelty, what's the competitive edge, so to speak, then we need the technology powerhouse there in the background. We need people that can use the different kind of platforms, not only like mobile, not only like desktop, but also, for example, in our case, the cockpit of a car. the digital screens there. So the platforms are plenty nowadays, and you have to be really skilled there. Of course, then the traditional software engineering, where we have always been relatively famous of, that we are really good at it. Data and the intelligent use of that data, that's of course a core nowadays many times. Then of course automation and its all forms from let's say simplistic RPA to all the way to the hyper automation. And then somebody to take care of the software and the services they build, so managed services, modern managed services. And when thinking about the competitive edge in our field, I'd say it's not about the individual pieces, it's about ability to actually orchestrate the whole thing.
Yeah.
That you get everybody to play the same song, so to speak. And when coming to a rationale with Supercharge, is especially here in the digital strategy corner, because once we found out that they are extremely talented in innovation processes, I would say that one of the best companies in Europe, hands down, in digital innovation processes, that was a clear offering-based rationale for us. We want that skill. We want to do with these people. Again, really good people in design, and also one thing, the mobile platforms. That's definitely their core skill set, so to speak. And those were the skills, and those were the parts of the offering that we especially justified the deal with from our point of view.
All right. I'll start with a question, the traditional hen or the egg, which came first? Which came first? Did you first acknowledge that this is an area where you want to strengthen your position? Or was it because you got to know Supercharge, you kind of noticed, we could strengthen our position here through Supercharge?
This is definitely an egg or hen question, because I would say both ways. We knew that we would like to be stronger there, but we didn't know that we had this good of an opportunity. So it was like this match made in heaven kind of thing at the end of the day. Impossible to say which one came first.
All right. Good. You had another slide.
Yeah, the rationale continues. Supercharge became a part of this fantastic team that we have in terms of digital experience, creative technology, and cloud of DevOps specialists. So we got them to join in. But besides just being part of the team, I would say that this is an important picture in terms of the rationale. As we stated in our strategy, we want to be more and more an international company. And Supercharge, I would say that one thing that we definitely fell in love was their ambition to actually internationalize. And we realized that they have done a lot of work there also in Europe. They had locations in Amsterdam, they had locations in London, they had a vast majority of their business in US. So we saw also an opportunity to actually accelerate our internationalization. And I'd say that was a really important rationale also for us. Was that enough?
That was enough, and looking at the map, I'll understand very well your idea about the Eastern European expansion possibilities going further.
Sure.
Also.
Yes, so we definitely weren't looking only for eastern part of the Europe. We were actually looking the whole Europe and even wider.
Yeah. We had a few questions that we were, tossing around before this event, and one of the findings that we had, that I would like to ask you, how did you come across Supercharge?
Yeah, well, using this like octopus metaphor, we had our tentacles all around all the time. Of course, that's a part of being a growth company that has like inorganic way of expansion. So we have several ways. We all the time try to find the right companies to actually negotiate with, to consider, and just one of these tentacles ended up being let's say crucial one, saying that there would be an opportunity now, and that was the moment when we actually started the negotiations. So there were not any previous work between the companies before, so we dive right away to the deep end, so to speak.
That was one of the questions here we were talking about. Did you have previous cooperation, some kind of subcontracting, doing some project together to a customer? Any of that?
None of that. And just think of this, that we did, let's say, almost 97% of the deal making through Teams during the COVID.
Yeah.
So of course it was a big question of trust. That how do we find each other? How do we perceive each other through these 2D opportunities? As
Exactly.
you can't even just like sit down and have a jug of beer to ask them who you actually are.
Exactly.
But just you are tied to these machines, and you know that you cannot fly. The airports are closed. It's impossible to actually reach the country and so forth. And still, without further or prior experiences.
Yeah.
Just through the discussion, just through this like trust creation, bonding with the people, so to speak, we ended up trusting them, doing the decision, and now in half a year or a dash more experience, I'd say that I would still write down that we made the right decision. We made actually a great decision.
This is good, and we'll probably hear more about the culture.
Sure.
and the how you built up the confidence and a relationship of actually jumping to the final conclusion. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's acquire and put together Supercharge with Siili. And I'll hear more about that. We already touched base on the previous cooperation, and a little bit about still before we go into your actual work everyday work with Supercharge, a little bit about the deal making, because part of the audience is here to understand how to make a deal, and especially you did the deal in a very peculiar time period in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
So something that you want to take, that this was absolutely the hardest and this was absolutely the easiest thing in making a deal between Siili and Supercharge.
Yeah, if we start from the difficult things, the hardest parts, I would say that one of the hardest parts, of course, is that we are not that, how would I put it? We are not that experienced in international mergers and acquisitions. The company hasn't made that many. So it's not like bread and butter for us, that it's like everyday routine that we just keep on buying the companies. And then we have like two, at the end of the day, relatively different environments where we operate in. And then we have the COVID, and then we have the teams. And then, of course, we need a set of people from the legal departments, the external legal people, the advisors, the second advisors, and so forth. And all of a sudden, we have quite a lot of people and quite a lot of differences between all sorts of things. And then we have a negotiation process that takes approximately like 9 months.
So it still took 9 months to build up the trust, to build up to the final.
Yeah, and it's a rough ride for all the parties. It's not an easy ride. It's not just like okay, let's do this. It takes a lot of paperwork, and I would say that doing that like semi-blindfolded because of the lack of the 3D connection or the real life connection. It wasn't easy, but I'm really, really happy that all the people that were actually tied to the deal making pushed it, and actually just like the perseverance was there to actually just like take it to the moment where we said yes. The both parties said yes. Okay, this is the way to go.
Wow. Well, to balance this off, tell something that was easy in making this deal.
Yeah, I actually I had a talk with my colleague this morning, and I said that what would you say that what was the easiest part now, like looking behind, and he said that by far the easiest part was that once we started to talk with the management team and we started to talk with the, let's say, core players of the deal. And from the first very meeting, everybody was like, these people are like super ambitious and super talented, supercharged. and he said that was the thing that actually made everything easy, that somehow we sensed from the people of Supercharged that these people are for real. And they have the drive needed to actually grow. They have the drive needed to actually take it to the next level and so forth. And even though there was a lot of paper, a lot of difficult discussions through teams, we all the time knew that we have the right team in place, and that made it a much easier task to actually just like push this through.
Wow, that's a great bridge to bridge the discussion of introducing actually one of the management team members, Mr. András from Supercell and
Supercharge.
Supercharge, sorry. Supercharge online, and you have to put on those,
yep,
so we don't have a 1 second, 2 second delay in sound. And we hope to have Mr. András online. András, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Can you guys hear me well?
Yeah, I can see you and I can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. It's great to be here. Great to be here.
So were you actually able to actually attend our previous discussion where I was saying really good things about you?
Absolutely, I was.
Yeah, now it's your turn.
Okay. It will take some time to give it back.
Hey, but it's great that you made it, and we have this short moment to discuss with each other about the deal, and of course, especially the things related after the deal. And I prepared some slides for us pre-hand, just to guide the discussion, and I think we can just like drive straight forward.
Very good.
We have like 5 separate topics to discuss about this cooperation. Of course, first we're going to talk a bit about the culture, then a few lessons learned, both sides of the table, then how it's been working together with each other, what has gone well, has there been any certain pain points for the cooperation, and then a few words about the future. I think we just dive into the first one. Would you like to start with the culture? How do you perceive the culture between the companies?
Yes, absolutely. Very happy to. So maybe I can say a few words just at the very beginning, a little bit about Supercharge, and then sort of the connection between the companies. So I'm one of the co-founders of the companies and currently the CEO, and I have three other co-founders, and we literally started the company as a classic like garage company out of uni, and because of that we had this really friendly, supportive, people-centered culture from day one that we really cherished, and we wanted to make sure that we retain that as we grow and put a lot of effort, I think, into scaling that culture. And one of the key things, when it comes to the M&A and the deal that we had, one of the things that we had as a must-have item on our list is that we are only gonna go ahead with an M&A if we find someone who's a good cultural match for Supercharge. And I think, of course, we found it, and Siili is that partner. And even after sort of 6 months of marriage, I can attest that that was a good decision. But just going back there, the reasoning for that is that our business is primarily a people business. The team is the business, and our people are the most important for us. And we work in an agency model, so that is super true. And sometimes we find there is more competition on the job market than with clients. So you gotta put the people in the center, and we didn't want to make any compromise there. And I think Siili is also a company that really puts people in focus, and the people really generally like being at Siili, and we found a very good cultural connection and chemistry, even with the management, but also with other people that we talked to very quickly, and that was really reassuring for us, and actually a huge factor in our decision.
Don't have that much to add. I would say that it's completely the same thing with us. That I was even surprised. I somehow had these moments where it almost felt like an parallel universe of Siili in Hungary. We had so much similarities in our thinking and in the company cultures. This appreciation of nature that came in both of the cultures. Then highly appreciating the craft, the actual like execution and doing things. This modern craftsmanship in a sense. of course, the one thing mentioned about the ambassador or earlier, the sense of humor. I've always considered it to be a really important asset between the companies, that we can laugh together. And I must say, I don't know whether you agree with me, but we have laughed a lot, even if it hasn't been. It's been a lot of work, but still, when we have been doing the work, we've been actually laughing, and it's always a really positive sign.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a really smooth cooperation, and fun times, and I must say that I think Finnish culture is a good match for us for sure. I mean, just generally speaking, we really like working, collaborating in the Nordics, because usually it's quite a balanced cooperation, working with partners and companies there, and this is one of the reasons why we also consider partners from the Nordics, and one of the reasons that we ended up going with you guys. So it's I think there's this absolutely that connection and match, and also on a person-to-person level as well. So we had some really good times. So I'm very happy with this decision.
Yeah. Great. Let's move to the second subject, which is the lessons learned. Would you like to also start with this one? I have few really good lessons from you guys already, but what have you learned from Siili so far?
Yeah, so there are, I think one of the ways that this relationship has already been super impactful is because of learning from each other. I think both ways, and you will probably have some examples. We haven't seen these, but I have for sure some. So naturally, Siili being a slightly larger company originally than Supercharge, had a couple of things that were much more mature and much more developed and battle tested, and we were looking for direction in those areas, and we are really grateful that we received a lot of help. I would single out two things here. One is that traditionally, for example, our marketing mostly focused on branding and thought leadership, and we really missed that really strong sales focus and lead generation focus. And this is something that you already had in place, this lead generation engine, and something that we learned a tremendous amount from, and something that is under implementation at Supercharge, and hopefully is going to play an important part in our business going forward. So that's already been something that's super actionable, super impactful. And another thing was that as we work with our clients, usually on a longer run, we kind of look at ourselves as digital innovation partners, and therefore we try to support them once they, of course, go live, and we have all sorts of support services. But these software support services weren't exactly, at least the organization side. The processes were there, but the organization wasn't completely mature. And Siili beforehand already had a pretty large software support organization that was also commercially successful. And we took that blueprint and started implementing that on our side as well. So there were a lot of learnings on these fields as well. So these would be two things that I immediately single out, and very actionable things.
Yeah. Okay, coming from the field of marketing, of course, I deeply thank on the we have been able to actually give you ideas on the lead generation and so forth, and when it comes to the managed services, same thing there. I would say that on our behalf, both of the companies have been growing really fast. So Siili throughout its time, of course, every year we've been bigger, and every year we've been more Siilis in one place and so forth. And you people are pretty much the same. You've been growing fast. But one thing that I must say that at least me and the management team and a big part of the company has learned from you is that you have had the discipline to actually just like put a heavy focus on developing certain processes, where we actually have always had this certain like one day we're gonna do something with this process, and you have had this like certain discipline of straight from the get-go actually just like determine few core processes that we actually have taken from you. A lot of examples, a lot of, how would I put it, inspiration in a sense on process development. So it's not always that you take the processes of a bigger company or the acquiring company, but what's been really, really important for me, and I've truly enjoyed it, that sometimes we actually can take a close look to the smaller company in a sense and learn a lot when it comes to the process development. So that's been definitely a lesson for us, and we are very, very grateful on your thinking on your certain processes.
Very good, very good.
Good.
Yeah,
okay.
There's been, I think, just to add there as well. I mean, there's been a couple of things. I think, you know, Supercharge being this digital innovation partner, and this kind of, we always had this end-to-end way of delivering services, and because of that, we, as you mentioned, we really had to iron out a few things very early on. And some of these, like some of the project management practices that we have, and a couple of other things that go with it, I believe will be super sort of valuable for the whole group once the practices spread as well. So I'm very glad that, you know, we are sharing that.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's look at the third topic, working together. If I would start by giving my answer, I would say that one thing or two things that actually have driven to the cooperation a lot. First one being, let's say, sales centeredness in a sense. So both companies, you and us, we believe in doing the sales well. Doing the sales in a way that actually brings value to the customer already before the deal is signed, and being overall active in the field of sales. And the thing that I've really enjoyed throughout our time together is that marketing and sales have always played a big role in us finding each other. So I would say that, I don't know, was it almost even before we actually signed the deal when we started to talk about the opportunities to work together? Wasn't it so?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the deal officially closed, I think, in end of February or so, or beginning of March, and we already had a lot of commercial discussions in January. And actually, I think just as the kind of the ink dried on the paper, we already had our first deal together, delivering together for one of the clients. So which have been going ever since, and successful deal. So I think from that perspective, that was a very quick validation on the opportunities to collaborate.
Yeah, I would say that if there would be a lesson to be learned from here, I would dare to say that if the people closest to the market in newlywed companies don't find each other, the companies won't eventually find each other. And we've been lucky that the people working with the market, working with the customers, have been able to find each other really fast, because that's how the cooperation is found at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a lot of our commercial teams have spent considerable time together, and they know each other on a personal level, and I think that's super useful. And you know, if we just look at what's going on day to day, a lot of sharing of case studies, and a lot of sharing of best practices, you know, spotting opportunities, pulling in the other partner when it really makes sense. So there's a lot of that going on. So I'm really hopeful that will be an expanding collaboration.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing, if the sales centeredness is a one thing, I would say another thing is drive. When partnering up, in a sense, I would say that one thing that we most fell in love with you people was the drive. And I would say that the drive has been there ever since. So whenever we talk on some topic that we should try this out or we should do it, it doesn't take weeks, months, or years to actually initiate. It takes hours, and then we are actually doing something together, not just only talking about it. And I'd say that that's a one really important part culture-wise, but also getting things done-wise. So I would say that drive is another thing that I would put emphasis on, this working together.
Oh, that's great that you see it this way. I mean even if you don't just look at the commercial level of collaboration, but if you look at the sort of the leadership or management level which we have between the companies, I think has also been super smooth. And you mentioned that the group strategy and the Siili forest that we have, the digital forest, that the group's core belief is that individual companies would succeed with driven entrepreneurs leading them, and that's the core strategy. And it's a really good fit for us, because when we were looking for a partner, we were looking for a similar structure where we can be part of a network, of an ecosystem, and we can benefit from that, and we can pull in specialized partners from that group, and we can get leads and share leads within the group. But at the same time, we still retain our independence and can really push ahead with our plans, because as you know, we have ambitious plans, and I can say that we get full support.
Sounds good, and that is exactly our thoughts as well. In a sense, we believe that the autonomy and the entrepreneurial drive of the companies is something that you are actually paying money from once you are acquiring a company. So if you are buying a culture, you are buying the spirit, you are buying the drive, there is no reason to actually harm it after the deal. So we believe in that we are actually buying these characteristics just as well as we are buying the capabilities and let's say the more traditional things, so to speak. Good. Hey, few topics left. Success and pain points. Would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, success, that part is easy to talk about because I think a lot of the things that we mentioned here today are really successes. I mean, commercially, we have an expanding collaboration. We are able to reach new clients and together, which I think the parties weren't able to reach beforehand. There's a lot of learning going on between the parties, and I think generally the company is on a good growth track. So I would think there are a lot of successes. For pain points, it's very like one thing I have is that your calendar is at the wrong place. It's 1 hour ahead. I don't know what's going on there, but no, just maybe that not all the words are exactly the same in Hungarian and Finnish. That's also something that we have to get around, although we have a lot of I think very similar words, but not enough to fully understand what you are saying.
Yeah, for sure. But we are trying to get better in our Hungarian day by day, and I already know the köszönöm, and also at this point I could say köszönöm much, because it's been quite a successful ride this far. So I tried to fight the pain points, and I would say that the 1 hour calendar difference, that's of course a pain point, but we haven't had that many so far, and we don't need to use that much time in actually finding pain points that are not there. So it's been a good ride so far, and let's enjoy it, and let's appreciate it, and let's just hope that we get to do things right also in the future, that in a sense we can hold on to it. We have only a few minutes left, so just a little summary on the future. How do you see, how does the future look between the companies?
Yeah, so I think, generally, as I mentioned, the group is on a really good growth track. From our side, on the Supercharge side, we have, you mentioned we have already offices in London and in Amsterdam. We have ambition to have an office in the US. That's something that we stated before, and we're working hard on that, and maybe we can realize that. I'm already getting a lot of support regarding that from the group as well, and hopefully we from our, from our side, we can help the group to internationalize a little bit more, to get more international clients, have other members of the group get more clients outside of Finland. So this is something that we would like to contribute to in the future. And what I foresee is more and more joint pitches and projects, especially for clients in the Nordics. I think there are loads of places where we can join forces, or where we can have the group enter new industries as well. It's something that's been, I think, going on in the last couple of months. So I foresee a lot of good things happening down the road.
Nothing to add there. I think that now we have found each other, and now it's time to just like grow bigger and internationalize. Thank you, András. Thank you so much for this discussion.
Thank you, Antti. Thank you, everybody.
Wow, you could really feel kind of the warmth and how close you are to each other already. And how long ago was this deal done?
Just like 6 months ago.
6 months ago.
So we are still newlyweds. So it might be a bit of a honeymoon going on there, but it's not really. It's about that we actually found each other really fast and really well.
Great. Thank you very much, András from Supercharge and Antti from Siili.
Thank you so much.
And last but not least, to top the cake with an icing, we will have Tünde. I hope I pronounced the name correctly, from the Hungarian Investment Promotion Agency, telling us a little bit about the Hungarian IT industry today. And let's see if we got everybody online.
Can you hear me, Rasmus? This is Tünde.
Yes, yep,
okay.
I do.
Hi, Rasmus. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been a great honor and pleasure to welcome you, the ambassador, and all the colleagues from Budapest. My name is Tünde Kis. I'm the Deputy CEO of HIPA, responsible for investment promotion. And I would like to give you a short overview and presentation about what we do, what's our kind of main goal, and how we can help the Finnish companies, those Finnish companies which have presence here in Hungary, to grow further, or to give also support for those newcomers which would like to come and settle down here in Hungary, and to get a kind of management consultancy from our side in terms of their future operation. So I try to show you a short presentation and try to summarize those type of main messages that we would like to provide further information at a later stage, if those companies are interested about here in Hungary. So I will come to the presentation.
That sounds good, and looking forward to that.
Hope you can see it.
Yep, now we see it.
Okay, so in this presentation, just a kind of first quick overview about what we do. So as a governmental agency, we've been having here in an office in Budapest, but working closely together with our embassies and consulates all over the world. So together with, for example, our Finnish colleagues as well, to give a support about business environment of Hungary, understanding about the major industry trends. As András mentioned in his discussion, the talent pool availability is one of the most important topic, and especially in this field, the people side, the way of cooperation with educational institution is very, very important. So happy to help because this is the most relevant and most hot topic, of course, not just in Hungary, but everywhere. Also, we've been happy to provide information about potential offices and locations, and of course, to give information about those type of support that could be relevant, for example, in case of ICT, when somebody is doing an activities in the field of innovation, R&D, and also those type of support that for example, training can be relevant. Just a few information and few messages around the sector in Hungary. So you can see here that this is quite a leading industry, one of the most successful and most core industries in Hungary is the ICT sector. Over 40,000 companies are working in this field. And also in terms of the headcount, more than 223,000 people are working in the ICT sector, majority in the field of ICT services. Very important to highlight the talent pool, as we discussed earlier. So more than 70% of these professionals having a university or college degree. And we also see the importance in this respect of the strong educational cooperation, as it was mentioned also by the ambassador. Just highlighting some of those companies which have presence here in Hungary, you can see that during the last couple of years, very significant international companies started to select their operations in Hungary, and also they're doing significant activities in the field of innovation and R&D. And what we see that this is also a kind of current trend, that there are newcomers in this field, but the existing companies are ready to bring, further operations and significant growth in terms of, for example, their activities and also in terms of their headcount number as well. Just highlighting some of the flagship players, Nokia was mentioned here. We are really, really happy that Nokia has such a significant presence here in Hungary. And also not just in the field of R&D, but they have very significant business service operations, for example, finance and procurement and HR operations that's serving regional or even certain activities, global functions as well, with more than 2,000 colleagues. But also we have to highlight those type of, for example, financial institutions, US financial institutions, including, for example, BlackRock, that recently started to make an innovation center in Budapest, okay, creating more than 700 colleagues in this respect. It's very important to mention the HR element, how they can build up such kind of large investments and large offices here in Hungary. We see the importance from the really beginning of working together with educational institutions, not just in Budapest, but also in the countryside, getting the right talents, starting communicating with these talents, and building a kind of close cooperation with the talents and with the educational institutions are important. There are more and more newcomers. This is one side. Of course, it's also important that they working closely together with, for example, startup companies as well. And they're working closely together, not just in Budapest, but also mentioned in the countryside university representatives as well. We are really happy that, for example, Diligent, a US software as a service company, last year decided to make a decision in favor of Hungary, and they established a new innovation and technology hub, for example, in Budapest, creating 300 employees. And in this field, in these companies, what we do is, for example, establishing career networking events together with our embassies all over the world, and bringing those talents that are available in these fields, and asking and showing them, those type of possibilities that can be available, for example, in Budapest and these locations. So this is also a kind of way of support of communicating those possibilities that can be provided for these youngsters. And this is also a kind of way that we can build this ecosystem further. From the governmental side, there's a clear strategy to support the industry in terms of increasing the seats, especially in the field of engineering and IT. The STEM subjects has a very, very important role and place in terms of the success of these companies. So there is absolutely a kind of clear aim to bring more students in this respect and to provide more opportunities for the youngsters in the market. If you need any information about those type of educational institutions that are available here in Hungary in different programs in the countryside or in Budapest, we will be happy to assist you, because this is the most important, to see what's those type of possibilities that can be supported to your future operation, what type of, let's say, programs that are available, and what will be the way of cooperation for the future. On the other side, and just again, a very highlight information about what the government is ready to provide when, for example, an ICT company is making an operation here in Hungary. Of course, as an EU member state country, we are entitled to provide certain incentives for different aims. The one is about when the company is establishing, for example, a new technology hub in the countryside, incentives can be applicable for the job creation purposes. So aiming to support the wages and salaries, those people that will be employed in the future. This could be one. In the presentation, you can see 6 regions out of the 7 in Hungary, where, for example, this support can be applied. And this is also managed by our agencies. So the companies, when making such kind of plans, are knocking on our doors to introduce these type of new activities, new plans, new projects, and we've been happy to provide all the necessary information. On the other side, of course, innovation and R&D is in the focus. So you can see that incentives, and these are cash incentive, non-refundable cash incentive for R&D purposes, could be applicable, okay? So throughout Hungary, incentive will be provided for research and development type of projects. Salaries of the employees, R&D related costs, R&D related expenses will be the major part of such kind of projects, and 25% as a maximum incentive, as a non-refundable incentive, can be applied from HIPA. The other important, and this is my final point in terms of the subsidies, is the training. The training is very important for not just for the new employees, but also for the existing colleagues' perspective, to provide the relevant knowledge, to provide those type of skills and competencies that are important for their activities point of view. So that's why if the companies are making trainings in Hungary, the government is providing, again, cash support, non-refundable cash support for the training programs for the future, which means that all these costs can be, let's say, put together in a plan. We're going to review it, and maximum 50% of these costs, 5,000 euro per person, can be provided. We as an agency would like to give, as I mentioned, a kind of comprehensive overview about all these topics. So happy to discuss all these opportunities further. And of course, together with my colleagues at the embassy here at HIPA, we will be happy to assist the Finnish companies, ICT companies, in terms of their future plans in Hungary.
Thank you, Tünde, for the overview, and especially in my eyes, I appreciate that your government has been so wise to increase the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math study places on university and college level. That's a great decision, and a very forward-looking positively. Not to forget the cash grants. They're also good, but I think one of the main issues is finding the right kind of people, as we heard in the discussion with Antti and András, how important it is to find the right people onto your journey together. So big thanks to you. And actually, we are close to the final remarks and words. So I have only one last request for everybody. Remember to give us feedback. We will be developing our studio events forward in the future, and only with your feedback we will get better. We have only in our feedback form one question, and that is, was this worth the time you gave us? Was it worth your time to use 1 hour to gain this information and hear from these wonderful people we had today in the studio? Mr. Ambassador Urkuti György from Hungary in Finland, from András, from Antti, and ending up with Tünde. Thank you very much, everyone.